Three females are hanging one night in Argentina on a boat. The sky unexpectedly darkens and in the distant, Aurora Borealis shows up. The sea begins to tremble and one of the females hurries inside to see the GPS, but it doesn't function. A young lady collapses and her companion attempts to get to her, but the wind seals the door. When she gazes via the window, she notices that both her pals are dead. In the city, three men are heading to their weekly card game at a friend's residence. However, the street is obstructed by a demonstration and the throng rushes on every car that tries to cross them. The trio has no option but to take another road and ultimately they reach Tano's residence. He's thrilled to see Russo and Juan, yet he scolds Russo for bringing his brother-in-law Omar. The group spends the night playing cards with Lucas, but they don't let Omar join them, and Tano becomes upset when Omar keeps touching his stuff. Eventually it starts raining and the power goes off. Everyone takes their phones and they're surprised to see that all their batteries are dead. Tano's flashlight doesn't function either, therefore they had to use an outdated gas lamp. Suddenly they hear some odd noises and Tano's wife Anna walks downstairs, says she saw a neighbor collapse outside. When they peek out the window they notice it's snowing, which never happens in Buenos Aires. Not to mention it's summer now. The snow somewhat looks like ash and Anna refuses to let Tano out, believing there's something nasty in the air. As automobiles start smashing outside, the men try the landline phone, but it isn't functioning either. The group starts becoming terrified, so Tano orders everyone to lock every window and cover every hole. Russo touches a window and sees it's freezing. The boys began debating the situation and soon it turns into an argument, so Russo utilizes the chance to exit the house and pushes Lucas off when he attempts to stop him. He only tries to walk a few steps before dropping dead in the street. Tano blames Omar for Russo's death and the others had to separate them before they can fight. As hours pass, the weather turns colder and everyone puts on extra jackets. They're also worrying about their families. Suddenly there's a knock on the ancient door linked to the garage. A woman begs out for aid, but Tano is apprehensive since she could be a liar attempting to take advantage of the situation. The others convince him it's the correct thing to do, so Tano fetches his gun while one smashes the old lock. Inga comes in and Anna takes care of her while Tano and one take advantage of the now open corridor to enter inside the garage. One wants to obtain the automobile keys, but there's a hole in the ceiling that is letting snow fall in front of the garage office. He moves inside Tano's automobile. It links a ladder to the office window, then he covers himself with some plastic to climb in. Once he has the keys and comes back, Tano points at the fallen snow, seeing that it changes color after it's been on the ground for a while. The men try a lot of cars but none of them will commence. Moments later the group sees that a neighbor is alive. They try to create hand gestures to stop him from opening the window, but it's too late. The man peers out and promptly dies. When his wife checks on him, the same happened. Seeing this makes one even more determined to save his family and declares he's leaving. The others help him cover his body from head to toes with countless layers of clothing and plastic bags. Tano has an old mask to protect his face, but one turns down the gun. When one is about to head out, Omar grabs the revolver and blocks the door, stating he wants the mask for himself. Tano easily takes the pistol from him and reminds him who is in charge. Afterward, one may finally leave the building and confirms the homemade suit is keeping him safe from the snow. As he walks through the streets, he sees hundreds of bodies of both people and pets. The whole city is currently buried in snow. A flashback shows all the tenants of a building having a meeting before the snowfall. Suddenly the electricity went out and a car smashed right into the main entrance. Everyone moved rapidly and didn't get wounded, but when a man went out to check on the driver, he quickly died. In the present, one insists on finding bodies everywhere while his trip continues. He also hears someone whistling but can't identify where it's coming from. After some more walking, a frightening stranger appears behind him, so he rushes till he loses sight of him. Then he enters the station and finds the train frozen on the tracks. All the persons who tried to escape are dead, but there are still a few surviving on the train asking for aid. One goes inside and explains there's nothing he can do for them. He opens his luggage to fetch the water bottles. He realizes Tano hid a pistol in there too. After distributing the water to the survivors, one goes. Moments later, one makes it to the building with the automobile in the entrance. He quickly climbs the stairs and finds survivors on every floor. Some of them are praying while others are arguing. Inside his ex-wife's apartment, he catches a dude taking items. One pushes him against the wall and demands to know where his daughter is. Neighbors run in when they hear the yelling and ask one how he survived the winter. One pauses as he realizes there's some snow on his bare hand, but it doesn't hurt. The moment is interrupted by his ex-wife Elena, who kicks the others out before telling one that their daughter Clara slept at a friend's home last night and she hasn't heard from her since. The guilt causes Elena to have a breakdown and one soothes her. She doesn't know the friend's address, but she has the name, so one proclaims he'll attend to the school to retrieve the address from the files. When he attempts to go, the neighbors block him to ask loads of questions. He tells them the snow doesn't harm after it falls and he just escaped by covering his whole body. However, they still don't let him move and demand they want to see the mask, so one takes out the rifle to keep them at bay. On the stairs, he pushes down a man to clear the way and the other guys angrily rush after him. Elena asks a neighbor friend for aid, but she closes the door in her face. The pair goes to hide in an empty apartment and clogs the door with furniture. After finding a body in the tub, Elena begins concealing her body with layers of garments. The neighbors are at the door, so one opens fire to keep them out. Then he makes Elena wear the mask and sends her to the school. She jumps through the window and survives by landing atop the smashed automobile. At that point, the neighbors manage to break in, so one covers his head with a plastic bag, then destroys the glass to make everyone run from the snow. One flees through the window but passes out from asphyxia. Back in Tano's residence, Anna wants to brew tea, but he stops her from using tap water because it may be polluted. The workers labor hard to seal every window with tape or wooden planks. Tano catches Inga handling his gun and snatches it back while she explains she's former military. Tired with waiting, Inga grabs her helmet and declares she's going. However, Tano stops her and claims he's departing first with a mask he just put together. He steals Inga's bicycle. He notices the LED light doesn't work, but the one driven by cycling does. Tano theorizes that ancient things work, which he confirms by attaching a record player to a car battery. Afterward, they all using homemade masks and reach the fire station, where they acquire a bunch of firemen's outfits and masks. Meanwhile, one finds himself in a trench watching a red light going up in the sky. Suddenly he wakes up and sees Elena found his companions in the street, so they came back for him in a truck. Tano assures him that ancient engines do work. Another memory shows Inga before the snowfall. She noticed her brother's phone had a notification for a delivery, but as he was in the middle of a soccer match, she volunteered to do the job. This saved her life. In the present, the group returns to Tano's house. He attaches a radio to the car battery, but no matter what frequency he uses, nobody answers. And debate ensues over what to accomplish, and one wants to borrow the car to find his daughter. Tano refuses, claiming they need to stick together. At that moment, a man wearing a welding mask enters the garage. It's their neighbor Benito, who needs to borrow the automobile so he can distribute things to other individuals with his buddy Roberto. Tano rejects, and while they debate, Omar takes the chance to steal the vehicle and leaves. After Benito leaves too, Tano tells the others he's not delighted to hear Benito is working with Roberto since they had a falling out. As Omar drives through the streets, he spots a red light in the sky and gets distracted. He notices the cars obstructing the way at the last second and tries to turn his truck, only to slam into a store. Meanwhile, Elena and one suit up and leave to look for their daughter. They try the first car they discover, but it doesn't function. At that moment, a vehicle with survivors passes by, so they hiding until they're gone. These men find Omar and rescue him. The couple ends up staying the night in the automobile, and the folks in the house can hear the looters breaking into the neighborhood establishments. Tano keeps testing the radio to no effect. The next, Juan and Elena finally make it to the school and enter through the window. While Elena's searching for the address, one seeks for an old automobile that works. He enters a security cabin, and when he snatches the keys, he hears the whistling. Suddenly, he has a vision of the red light and destruction taking over the city, culminating in a tremendous explosion. He wakes up inside the car. This does work. In the school, Elena hears some hammering noises and finds Pablo in a closet. His pals locked him up as a prank. One comes back and helps him out, slapping the child when he's rude to them. The couple tries to explain him what's happening, but Pablo just runs away. He only stops when he sees all his friends dead outdoors. Pablo knows where Clara's friend lives, so he agrees to take the couple there if they pledge to take him home afterward. When they make it to the house, they uncover a bunch of dead persons in the garden, but no Clara. Pablo freaks out at the sight of the bodies. It turns out he provided them his home address, and that's his dead family. Pablo collapses with a fever, so the couple stops at a pharmacy for medicine. While they investigate the store, a pregnant woman bangs on the door shouting her water broke. Ignoring Juan's concerns, Elena unlocks the door and allows her in. This turns out to be a distraction for her armed lover to ambush them. The lady hits Elena, and after grabbing the luggage and car keys, the man locks them in the closet. While the robbers leave, Elena wonders if one has been seeing visions again. He acknowledges they come back since the snow began. Pablo at first reluctant to open the door because he hates one's attitude, but he does it when Elena talks nicely to him. The couple offers Pablo the mask they made for Clara and they leave together. On the street, one gets ready to shoot when he sees someone, but it's only a family getting away in their automobile. When they cross the station, one gets on the train and notices all the survivors are gone. At Tano's, Inga comes back after hunting for her brother, but she found him dead in the park. She also says she heard some odd noises but didn't see anyone. Tano offers her the gun and begs her to protect the house while Steve and Lucas go out for supplies. The duo returns to the fire station, only to find Benito and his gang. Benito wants to close all the highways, which Tano disapproves of. He also wants Tano to allow them use his garage and allows him 24 hours to make his option. When they return to the house, they discover a voice on the radio. A man from Uruguay confirmed that the dangerous snow is there too, and he's heard the same news from Brazil. They conclude the issue is happening around the whole world. Unfortunately, the call ended too quickly. Desperate to communicate to the individual in Brazil, Tano climbs to the roof to adjust the antenna, but he realizes his compass isn't working. He rushes returning to his craft to check on other compasses. He notices they're all behaving suspiciously. Eventually, the couple returns to Tano's apartment with Pablo. Tano informs one that he's changed his thoughts and wishes to move for his other house on an island. He tells him about the compasses and concludes that Earth's magnetic field has moved, thus he feels the world is broken. One still wants to find his daughter and they dispute until Tano states that Clara is deceased and one is in denial. At the gas station, the pregnant woman and her boyfriend are removing items from the store and gas from other cars. The man hears a noise and looks about with his torch till he notices something moving. Suddenly the car shakes and when the woman turns around, her boyfriend is gone. Something shrieking cracks her window and she cries as the automobile slips on the snow, finally sliding down a hill to kill her. At the nearby bridge, a person in a yellow suit walks at a fast speed. A group of people appears in the distance to cross the bridge too. At Tano's house, the group holds a funeral for Russo. Afterward, Tano and Lucas head to the grocery store to acquire more supplies. One claims he wants to discover his daughter and Anna remembers that she recently threw out a handful of phone books. They retrieve them from the rubbish and one finally discovers the address he needs. One leaves alone on foot, although Tano feels horrible and decides to help him in his car. He announces they'll find Clara and then go for the island together. During the trip, Tano reveals his theory. He feels that the ring of radioactive particles encircling the Earth has been destroyed and triggered the devastating snowstorm. Moments later, they discover the highways obstructed by large mounds of cars. Suddenly they hear a commotion and are surprised to saw military cars approaching. A soldier asks them to turn back and avoid the downtown area as it has been closed off. He also discusses the military base is getting organized and aid will come shortly. There's something peculiar about the way he talks, so as the military cars leave, Juan and Tano decide to follow them. After passing a tunnel, the couple reaches downtown and the troops open fire at them. They start driving in reverse to escape, but a bus falls from the bridge and stops the route. The duo goes ahead and drives by the soldiers, only to realize they're aiming at something else. It turns out there are enormous bugs on the bridge throwing the vehicles and the military can't stop them. When a man appears in the middle of the street, they spin the automobile to dodge him and the automobile ends up rolling on snow. As it rolls, one sees a vision of the red light and his daughter Clara. The automobile stops when it crashes into a garage. One watches the bugs climb down from the bridge and go after the soldiers, catching them using tentacles and enveloping them in something like cobweb. Tano helps one obtain out of the car and they race upstairs just in time to avoid the bugs striking the garage gates. As they go, one continues to experience glimpses of the red light and utter destruction. They manage to hide on the roof and after a while, they take a look around to confirm all the soldiers and bugs are gone. Then they come down and take the fallen weaponry before continuing their journey. When a bug arrives pulling a webbed person, they hide and watch it drag the body into newly formed nests. As they continue to advance, Tano unexpectedly slides and hits a trash can. A bug hears the sounds and comes for them, so one fires fire, but Tano's gun is stuck. With an accurate strike to the skull, one kills the bug before it comes too close. Unfortunately, the noise catches the attention of more bugs, so the duo starts running. Some of the creatures run after them as others feed on the dead bug. Thankfully, a man spots them and waves his hands to show them where to go. When they reach the doors of a church, people from the windows throw Molotov bombs that light the bugs on fire. The man unlocks the door for them and they take a concealed passage into another room while avoiding the bugs in the main church area. They meet a nun who is taking care of a group of survivors that includes Omar. He tries to imply that his previous friends are risky to get them tossed out. The nun won't listen to him and instead brings them to the roof to show them the red lights. Apparently the bugs arrived in them. Tano concludes it's an extraterrestrial invasion and instantly starts rushing, intending to escape, but the nun stops him because he'll put them all in risk. In the evening, a group of explorers returns with some supplies, but they didn't manage to move too far because of the bugs. Tano believes that more intelligent aliens must be manipulating the bugs. One tries to sneak out to find his daughter and is noticed by Omar, so he grabs him by the neck to shut him up. Omar tells him that a man named Rengo recalls him from the Falkland War, but one doesn't identify him. Then Omar also relays a rumor about a hidden tunnel at the border between downtown and the suburbs. One leaves the church through the rear door and begins crossing town by ascending on roofs. He sees the red light and gets a vision of the bugs heading towards something. In the church, the group is discussing on their next step. Some people want to depart, but the others think it's too hazardous. One comes back and announces he's located a functional truck, so everyone agrees they must depart before the bugs find them. While the group gets its provisions and covers themselves up, one talks to Rengo, who won't be arriving with them. He and the nun are staying because they don't want to slow the group down. One tells him about his visions since some of the destruction seem to mirror images from conflict, but Rengo hasn't had any. The group meticulously crosses the street while the red lights provide visibility. There's a bug nearby, but it doesn't see them. They keep marching until they reach the border, and most of the group hides inside a bus when two men start breaking through an old wall to find the tunnel. One of the survivors is a mother with a baby, who at that moment starts crying. The loudness catches the attention of the bugs, but fortunately the men finish smashing the wall as the party hurries to shelter in the tunnel before they can be found. One stays on the bus with the mother, who silences the baby by feeding him. Suddenly the church bells start ringing, whatever Rengo and the nun are doing on purpose to distract the bugs. While the group crosses the hole, Rengo and the nun spray gas all over the church. Once all the bugs are inside, they throw a cigarette to generate a massive explosion that lights the building on fire and murders them. At the border, the troop reaches the other side and finds the truck one saw earlier. However, when they move it, an insect comes out of the automobile pile. It pulls Tano away, but before it can spit the web, the surviving throw a smoke grenade that scares the bug away. There are more monsters coming through the bridge, so one begins fire while everyone runs to get on the truck. The monsters bring down a sign to climb down, but by then the truck is already going away fast enough that they can't follow. As they leave, they see the church burning in the distance. Another vision sees a youthful one attacking the opponent during the Falkland War. A tremendous explosion caused him to pass out, and in the morning he woke up in the ditch surrounded by the bodies of his other soldiers. It was snowing and he could hear whistling. When he left the trench, he found his older self staring back at him. In the present, Tano, Juan, and Omar leave the gang to return to Tano's residence while the survivors continue driving to the military base. They can see individuals on the roofs, yet they disregard them. Once inside, one is astonished to find Clara asleep on Elena's lap just like in his visions. The family has a sweet reunion while Clara tells she comes looking for him since she remembered he had his weekly card game here. Meanwhile, Roberto comes with some of Benito's men, alleging they heard reports about the bugs. When Tano confirms it and notifies them they're departing, Roberto offers a deal, his RV for Tano's house and garage, because they assume they can combat the monsters. Tano eagerly accepts. Once everyone is ready, the group gets in the RV and Tano notes that the yellow suit Clara used to arrive here is the one from his boat. As they drive away, they have to dodge a mad automobile that is desperately trying to flee from town. Eventually the group makes it to the pier, only to discover there's no water and the area is too muddy to drive through the river. On a fisherman's bucket, they see a fish is still alive. Omar thinks they should also go to the military camp, but Juan and Tano decide they should drive north to try to locate water there. If they don't, they'll consider a different plan. Before leaving, Tano goes to check on his yacht. As they continue their adventure, they notice the insane automobile from earlier smashed on the side of the road. The family appears to have been shot. When Clara wakes up, they ask her where she got the costume and the mask, but she doesn't remember wearing any of that. After a couple hours of driving, they find a big mall where thousands of people seem to be hiding, so they decide to spend the night there. While everyone calms down, one discloses to Lucas that he is worried by Clara's return because it feels surreal. Lucas merely thinks the situation doesn't let him think clearly. During dinner, most individuals are enthusiastically conversing or dancing, but one is nervous about so many strangers together. When a neurodivergent boy approaches Clara, she freezes for a few seconds before her hands start smacking. Her parents have to aid her calm down and take her away to a tent. Elena thinks they should go to the military base to get help for Clara, but one reminds her that he can't go there. The conversation is interrupted by Tano, who confesses he couldn't find his boat. However, he did find the journal and Clara's signature indicates she took it. Meanwhile, Lucas goes hunting for alcohol and hears some bizarre noises in the next room. The next morning, everyone excitedly goes outside because it stopped snowing. People celebrate the sunlight while Tano checks his compass. He discovers that the poles have inverted and now south is the new north. Anna then realizes that Lucas is missing. While Tano and Juan go seeking for their lost companion, a car parks outside. Suddenly 3 masked strangers come out. Suddenly these strangers start fire, killing a bunch of people. Everyone flees back inside in panic while Juan and Tano return to shoot back. Some persons are hiding behind automobiles and the duo sneaks around to help them. With his army talents, Juan kills one of the opponents with an accurate shot. The second attacker checks a trash can and finds 2 youngsters, but he ignores them and enters the mall. Moving fast, Juan hides behind a separate car and shoots the third stranger, causing the body to crash through a window display. When he unmasks her, he notices her jewelry and learns she's the mother of 3 kids. Elena is a doctor and checks on the injured patients, including the neurodivergent youngster. At that point, Lucas arrives with soldiers from the military base, saying he found them on the freeway. When Tano asks him how he reached the freeway, Lucas claims he doesn't know. Then Tano checks the RV and discovers the gunfight broke it. All the survivors flee on the military trucks. As they pass the highway, Lucas points at the area where the army found him. He can't remember how he arrived there and blames it on the alcohol he consumed last night. During the ride, they notice the river has water again. In the meantime, the third shooter has managed to flee. He enters the sewers, but the bugs don't assault him. In reality, they move out of the way as if they recognized him. Later, one gets another vision of himself doing some shopping to the mall and encountering the mother he shot down. She assures him that she's still there in some part of his consciousness and asks him not to stop looking for her. He wakes up at the military base, where the troops are educating all the survivors how to shoot. One morning, Tano is summoned by the sergeant, who has heard that he's an engineer and asks him to mend the radio. However, Tano leaves in a huff when he hears they want him to do it downtown. When he bumps into Juan, he explains that the military is planning to pull down the wall near the border by hitting it with a locomotive and send a message from a tower. Lucas is planning to join the squad and points out how many people they could save with that message, saying because if they don't help they'll be in danger and not simply from the bugs. His tone is rather aggressive and his pals think he's acting weird. Afterward, additional trucks arrive with survivors including Roberto. Tano asks him what happened and Roberto reveals Benito and the gang didn't make it. Hearing this, one thinks they should leave and get to the island. However, Tano and their wives insist they should stay. Clara needs medical support and the island is probably not safe anymore. That night, one can't sleep and goes for a walk, but he quickly notices 2 males are following him. One of them is a train engineer and reveals there's a station near the base. He thinks they can fix it to get downtown safely and send the message from the tower, but they need one to change Tano's viewpoint. The next morning, a group of teens performs a little funeral for the neurodivergent boy who didn't survive the shot. Tano, Juan, Omar, Pablo, Inga, Lucas, and a few others end up joining the crew of troops to go on the assignment. After crossing the river on boats, they find the train tracks and continue on foot. During the trek, they see some military planes fly by. When they approach the train station, they instantly start to work. Most of the team concentrates on fixing and pushing the train while a few soldiers stay vigilant in case the bugs show up. Luckily, nobody approaches them, but when the train eventually takes off, they don't notice an armed woman watching them from the water tank. Midway through their trek, Pablo and some soldiers off the train so they can protect the border. A couple moments later, the train is coming closer to the car wall and the vibrations drive the bugs to come out of hiding. Everyone grabs on as the train starts going quicker and one sings to distract the team, who soon joins him. The train impacts against the pile and sends all the automobiles flying, creating tons of smoke and a dirt cloud. The team celebrates their victory through their coughing. Once they reach downtown, the team continues to walk on foot with the batteries and they're amazed to learn there are no bugs following them. They also observe that the planes from earlier crashed on the ground. The team separates again, with half of them transporting the batteries to a radio tower while the others go examine the planes. There are rockets in a box and Inga finds a map suggesting they were flying to the stadium. Suddenly they notice a boy in the middle of the street and when they come out to check on him, they find dozens of citizens stared at them with blank looks. At the radio tower, Tano successfully installs the radio and an army operator sends out a message telling the survivors they can get support in the military. Back at the base, they pick up the message on their radio and the women see the teenagers are leaving in a car. Soldiers launch flares to confirm the message was received and everyone celebrates. The excitement at the radio tower is killed when the group observes a blue glow emanating from the stadium. One thinks they should go check it out, however a soldier informs out that the plane squad hasn't come back and they can't risk more personnel. At the tower entryway, the soldiers keep watch till a man from the plane team returns. Upstairs, Juan and his gang wait inside an apartment, where they find a deck. They start playing, but Lucas isn't as good as usual and fails to remember the gestures involved in the game. When the others mock him, he snaps and takes a knife, which he uses to stab Omar before escaping away. Juan and Tano track him to the roof, where Lucas begins talking about someone listening to radio talks and disturbing the plan. His friends don't grasp his mysterious remarks, but before they can seek for clarification, Lucas jumps. Tano had a breakdown as he watches his friend die, but Juan encourages him to get moving because he's observing many of individuals moving weirdly on the street. As they rush downstairs, the radio operator and Omar join them, but the guards at the entryway are all unconscious. The group hides on the stairs while the plane team comes return to search the building. Once they reach the outside, they notice a familiar survivor beside the door, yet when they call him, the man starts shouting to give away their whereabouts. A chase ensues and one had to start fire to keep the oncoming people back while his guys seal the gate behind them. Soon they reach the train and hop on as the driver makes it take off. The chasing crowd runs after it, but they aren't fast enough. Only one man receives near and one shoots him down. During the journey, one realizes these folks were behaving like the shooters in the mall. However, they let them send the message. Therefore, it looks it was a trap. He wants to inspect the stadium and the driver soldier offers to come along, so he shows Tano how to handle the train. One can't help thinking the driver looks familiar. The rest of the group will return to the base to alert the others and seize care of Omar's wound. As the couple crosses the town, they hear gunshots in the distance. They search the area and find hundreds of people standing still in the park till some trucks come to get them up. The bugs are walking around these people, who are shooting firearms as part of their training. Then the duo enters an abandoned building and one sees his visions again, which show him all the things he's been living the previous few days. When they glance out the balcony, one sees why the soldier looks familiar and his visions fit the events. He's already lived all this. Suddenly a gazebo starts lighting blue and the strange entity behind the whole operation appears. It plays a calming melody that influences people's brains to make them its minions. One sees teenagers enters the crowd and realizes Clara's actions, meaning she's been mind-controlled all along. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Leave a comment about your favorite movie and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.